Hello everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about Stand By Me, my fingerstyle arrangement, how I came up with it. I'm going to be picking it apart, going through everything, all the decisions and all the everything that went into the arrangement. So what I'm going to start with right now is we're going to listen to the original song, and I'm going to talk you through my mindset and my process, picking out some notable things to focus on the arrangement, pick out some objectives, what I want to achieve with the arrangement, just by listening, not even using my guitar at this point. So that's what I'm going to jump into now, and then later on I'll show you the process of how I began to write it down and bring it all together and try and hit some of those objectives which I set myself to begin with. So if I just jump over now to the YouTube version of this song, and I'll talk you through the song itself as I hear it and as I interpret it in my head, make some comments about that, talk about what I would want from my arrangement, and then we'll move on. Okay, so obviously that was the intro, and that is just bass line and what's the sand shaker or something? Boom, 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 boom. Very a famous bass line that we've all heard and we all love. This is a classic song, by the way. It's one of those songs. The more you listen to it, the more it just gets inside your soul. So that's a couple of notable things there. It's a strong bass line which carries out throughout the rest of the song, and you'll hear that as we go along. And there's that sand shaker type of thing. So what I'm thinking, obviously, is a thumb slap for that in terms of technique in order to represent that in my interpretation, and then keeping that strong bass line going throughout the whole of my interpretation as it does in this song. That's what I'm trying to aim for. I want to keep that strong bass line that interweaves with what's coming up the vocal, and I want to obviously use the thumb slap for that sand shaker thing. And the land is dying. Okay, what I'm getting in my left ear, if I've got my ears the right way, yeah, my left ear, make sure I had my headphones the right way, is a really acoustic guitar, a really low acoustic guitar, just in one side. I'm not getting it in my right ear. So although I probably won't be able to do anything with that in my interpretation, I know that it's useful to understand what the instrumentation comprises of for the original song. So I know there's another rhythmic element there. I don't know if you heard it. If not, just replay that first verse or first couple of verses. Just listen out for it in one ear. Make sure you get headphones on, because this isn't going to be or it's going to be barely audible at all through headphones probably. So that's everything that's comprised. We've had the bass, we've had a really low rhythm guitar, we've had the vocals and the sand shaker thing. That's it for instrumentation so far. It's instrumentally very basic up to now. So let's jump into the chorus. So darling, by me. Okay, obviously my air playing of the violin gave it away there, but I think it's a cello or something, some sort of stringed instrument comes in there in the chorus, and that gives it a little bit more depth, and from here on in you'll be able to hear that throughout the song, the cello or the string section. Believe it or not, a violin was the first musical instrument I ever picked up and played. Bit of a rare known fact there. It only lasted a few weeks because my violin teacher in primary school was an absolute idiot. But that was it. That was my first taste of playing music, and then I picked up a guitar about 4 or 5 years later. But yeah, so again, useful to know that there is another instrument, or to observe that there's another instrument there that's added dynamics to the chorus. So the chorus takes a step up in terms of feel. We've been growing gradually from now on. So the beginning was just bass and the salt shaker intro, I keep calling it a salt shaker, sand shaker, bass, sand shaker, and then we added the vocals as with a rhythm guitar in the verses, and then we've added the cello in the chorus. So you can see that it's stepping up in terms of instrumentation throughout this whole song, and take note of what's being played too. The way it's being played. The string section is a little din dun, 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 dun. It's added a little bit of urgency, a little bit of kind of. It was all dead chilled out to begin with. Dum, boom, 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 boom. But like it's a really chilled out feel. And now the chorus has come in. You know, obviously he's getting to a high point of his vocals, and now there's a dun dun dun, dun a little bit more urgency in what's being played. So although we might not be able to do that with anything with that in our interpretation, it's useful to observe it and to try and do something with it at the very least. So we've made a mental note of that. Let's move in now to the next verse, which is after the chorus.
If the sky.
You may have noticed something else being added to the layer there, and that was the backing vocals. It's very faint, but there's a kind of constant note of a backing vocals happening there. So again, we're adding more. There's more instrumentation now in verse number 3, I think it is, than it was at any point in the song so far. So we've just been taking escalating steps so far.
Stand by me.
So that's the end of the third and fourth verse, and then the chorus again. We haven't gone anywhere with the dynamics. We're just building the whole time, and we're coming into the solo now. So it's another part that we want to kind of try and represent in our interpretation. We know we've got 2 verses, a chorus, 2 verses, and then another chorus, and then we're coming into the solo now. So let's have a listen, see what this comprises of, and see how we can think about how we're going to interpret it. Okay, so that's the first half of the solo done, and what you'll notice is that it is a strings solo, and it again comprises with the undertone of that bass line's just going all the way through, dun 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 dun, the whole time. That doesn't change, and then we've got at least 2 interweaving melodies happening in there's one main melody happening in the string section, and then there's another one kind of complementing it at some point. So again, useful to take note. We're probably not going to be able to do much in terms of having the 2 melodies intertwined as well as that bass note. When we get to the guitar section, I'll show you how difficult it is to have more than 2 melodies going on at the same time. The bass line is a melody in itself because it's a constant thing that you're going to have to keep up with. So having the bass line on top of 2 other melodies, it's pretty much almost impossible, but we can probably do something about it. So that was the first half of the solo. Next half. So you might not have noticed because I did pause it halfway through like a lemon, but the first half of the solo was in 1 octave. The second half of the solo was in a higher octave, and it's almost identical, but it's the same melody but in a higher octave. So again, it represents a building of tension and adding to the intensity, and the whole thing just is reaching some sort of crescendo, which is what is about to happen. So this is the final choruses. Okay, and the fade out there. So it wasn't all that impressive a crescendo, but the vocals did reach a passionate ending there. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you? There is that intensity there. So the song fades out, which it should do at that point, because you can't keep escalating a song and then just dip it dynamically and then finish on like a 1 note. That wouldn't work. So that's why it just fades out. It just leaves it to your imagination that the guy's still walking down the street, blaring at the top of his voice. So that is it, picked apart essentially. And there are a few things that I picked out there that I'll maybe talk about in just a bit, and then the rest of the video. So it is useful to go through this process. There's a finite amount of instrumentation or instruments or notes in every song, right? This one is simpler than most because you've got a bass line which is very strong, a vocal melody which is very strong. There's no drums to speak of. It's just the sand shaker. And then you've got You've got a really light acoustic guitar probably going on in the background, which I couldn't hear at this point because you've got other things like the strings and some backing vocals happening there. But really, that's it. It's very rare that you'll get a song with this few. Apart from like Adele songs are very stripped back. She really uses drums and things as well. So obviously, a select few. I'm talking about very specific songs of Adele. But in terms of pop music. Modern pop music, you don't get a lot of stripped back kind of songs. Okay, I'll stop waffling now. I'll segue into the next section in just a second, and we'll pick apart what I've done, and I'll talk you through the process of putting everything together. So let's move on to that just now. All right, so welcome back. That was a quick transition. What we're going to do in this section now is pick up the guitar, and now we've done the analysis on the song itself, and we've got an idea of what we want to represent in our arrangement. Then we can start putting that into action, essentially. So what we're going to start with, unfortunately, that is the end of the free preview for the lesson of Stand By Me. If you want to go and access the rest of the lesson, head over to patreon.com/Gareth Evans. If you sign up there, you also get access to every single one of these guitar lessons here. This is all Patreon exclusive guitar lessons. So if there's anything on that list that you fancy learning too, it's a great value proposition for those of you who want to learn a fingerstyle guitar. Also, there's a fingerstyle arranging course which I'm currently developing. It's not finished right just yet, but there's a bunch of content there already, so you can access that if you want to be able to do this fingerstyle thing yourself. That's it. I'll see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.